Hello, Temple Beth Am. Uh, Nice to be addressing you, even though I can't really be seeing you. You're seeing me, but I can't see you. Here we are. We're starting, in some ways, our third month of this Safer at Home protocol. Our third month of having synagogue be a digital experience and community being gathered in a way that would have been hard to fathom before this. Our third month testing our resiliency, testing our ability to care for one another and ourselves without really knowing with certainty when this is going to change in a radical way. But we are mustering through, and we continue to be here for you as a community and trying to stretch ourselves so that we can meet as many needs as possible in the community. In this email, it's going to be a three-parter like the last one. There's going to be a short piece of just a communal update, a little piece of Torah, and then a meditation, so you can stay for part 1, 2, or 3. You can skip forward to part 2. You can log off before the meditation, whatever you want. So first, an update. As many of you know, we've now moved into what the mayor has called Phase 2 in Los Angeles' response to the coronavirus, which means that some businesses that had not been considered essential and were not allowed to operate in any way are now being allowed to operate, although under very significant restrictions. From everything we understand, that does not include us, does not include faith communities who are still being asked to have all prayer services being done digitally, and therefore Temple Beth Am, as of now, is not announcing any meaningful changes to how we are operating as a community or as a staff. Critical staff members are going in once or twice a week for a few hours to deal with payroll, to deal with facilities management, as we have been permitted to do, but we are nowhere near close to operating as normal. But we are checking the pulse of what the government officials are telling us and beginning to think in advance so that we can be ready to try to make those judgment calls, and they will be judgment calls as to when we can start experimenting with community again in person. I want to give you the heads up right now that it's not going to happen all at once, and you know that. I want to give you the heads up now that it might happen, and we may have to pull back based on our understanding that we overreached. But all of that will be motivated by our need and want to provide you, members of our beloved community, as much experience of the Temple Beth Am world as possible. And speaking about experiencing as much as possible, I made a reference to this the video last week. We're beginning to enter into another bar bat mitzvah season. We had a lull for a bit, and we've been working with all the families upcoming, trying to help them think through what a bar bat mitzvah might be like in this era. One of the things that some families have chosen, including this week, is a delayed bar bat mitzvah for much later in the year, for like the fuller experience, but with the student coming to the Zoom minion on Thursday morning to read the Torah section that she had prepared, also to chant the Haftarah, even though you're not supposed to chant the Haftarah on Thursday morning. There's nothing wrong with simply chanting the verses that have been prepared for from the section of the prophets. And so I'm excited that this coming Thursday, Abby Stone, daughter of Dan and Michelle Stone, will be celebrating part 1 of her bat mitzvah digitally at our Zoom minion. So if you want to join us, please log on to the Zoom on Thursday morning at 7:30 so we can celebrate Abby. I'm sure she'll be touched to see faces that she expected and faces that she didn't expect, and there'll be more of that going forward throughout this season. Shavuot is coming up. As many of you know, Shavuot is an extraordinary night in the life of Temple Beth Am. We gather in the hundreds, including community partnerships from around the neighborhood, to study all night long in our building using every room possible, and then ending with davening on the roof at dawn. Obviously, that's just not going to happen this year, but Shavuot is going to happen. I want to credit Rabbi Schatz, who's been thinking so creatively about how to deliver to you a Shavuot experience, and there are going to be 3 basic components. You'll be finding out more about it soon. There's going to be some pre-recorded material that you can experience before Yontif or after Yontif if you don't want to use technology at all on Yontif, which we of course honor and celebrate. There's going to be times throughout the night where different rabbis and teachers will be in the sanctuary alone teaching on the live stream, which will not be interactive, but it'll be an opportunity for you to hear some Torah. And there will also be some version of an open Zoom room that you can open up even before Yontif begins, where different members of our staff and faculty and community will be teaching in that mode as well, so you can choose which religious option you're most comfortable with. More details to come, including how we can link to the Rabbinical Assembly's nationwide Tikkun Leil Shavuot program for the entire conservative movement. We're beginning to think about the high holidays. They're not that far away, and while we can't fathom that at this point, there might be a situation where 500 people can be in the same room as of September. We do have a large campus with many different places in the building where we could possibly gather people. And if it's going to be possible, we don't know yet, to gather people in smaller groups, then there might be a situation where we deliver shorter high holiday experiences in as many rooms as possible in our building, with safe numbers of people there, in the sanctuary and in the chapel and in the gym and in the ballroom and on the field, and perhaps even in the Ionic Lodge, and maybe having it staggered throughout the day so that the gatherings can be smaller, so that Temple Beth Am can in some meaningful way gather for the high holidays. None of this is certain yet, but we're beginning to put a lot of thought into it because it's such an important time of the year. I want you to put on your calendar May 26th. That is the night that was scheduled for our annual meeting, which is an opportunity for every member of the community to come every year for dinner, to hear updates on the community, and also to vote the new slate of officers. Obviously, that's not happening in person this year, but it is happening. It's going to be via a Zoom call. There are going to be a couple of special treats and surprises if you participate. Don't get so excited. It's not like Oprah. You're not getting a free car, but we're trying to make it a sweet and meaningful experience for you. So please register when you get that email inviting you to do so. And finally, an email will be coming out announcing that the rabbis are going to be offering weekly coffee hours open to anyone in the community. In addition to the one-on-one and one-on-two conversations we're having with so many, we want to make ourselves available for smaller group conversations, just to check in with each other, to see each other's faces, and to share what this experience has been like. You will not need to register for that. You'll just need to come onto the Zoom, and I look forward to seeing you. I think mine's going to be on Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning. Okay, that's the end of part one. Part two, Torah, Parshat Emor. At the end of Parshat Emor, we have one of the places in the Torah where we learn about what is called in Latin lex talionis, the notion of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And as the rabbis came to understand what that section was about, they were troubled with it. So in the Talmud, one of the responses is, when it said eye for eye, it never really meant eye for an eye. It meant money for eye, right? It was never the idea that you're supposed to be poking out someone's eye, even if they poked out another person's eye. That was considered to be barbaric. Rabbi Eliezer said, no, it did mean eye for an eye, but not in the way that you think it means. Not eye for an eye from the perspective of poking out the eye of the person who did the grievous act, but when you are assessing the value of the eye that you're having to compensate for, it's not the eye of the person who was injured. It's not how much you imagine their eye meant to them. It's the value of the eye of the injurer. How significant is your eye to you? That's what the Torah means by ayin tachat ayin. The Rambam expands on that, and Rabbi Yosef Soloveitchik, one of the great minds of American Orthodoxy in the 20th century, expands on what the Rambam Maimonides says. I'll combine the ideas into the following thing. If, in the end, it was supposed to be money for an eye and not eye for an eye, why does the Torah even say ayin tachat ayin, eye for an eye? The Torah should have said kesef tachat ayin, money for an eye. And what the Rambam says, is explained by the Soloveitchik, is the following. If the Torah had just said money for an eye, I might have thought to myself, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? So I'll injure someone, I'll cut off their pinky, or I'll poke out their eye in anger. Worst case scenario, all I have to do is to pay a little money. It would diminish the notion of the infinite value of not only the life, but of the body of a person, if the original text simply said that all you have to do if you cause such an injury is to pay money. By the Torah's saying ayin tachat ayin, it's telling you, the potential injurer, if you injure a bodily part of another person, it's not just that you have to pay the value of that limb or that eye as assessed by the other person, but you have to consider what your life would be like without an eye. How much is your eye worth to you? What would your life be like without your hand? What is your hand worth to you? And when the Beit Din comes to assess that, they're going to be considering the potential loss in your life, not just the loss as ascribed to someone else. Because in such a situation, we're bound to downgrade the value of the importance of something to someone else compared to the value or importance of something to us. For a very kind of weird and strange way, this is a personal commentary, a personal way of understanding the verse this week. Some of you know that I had very minor symptoms of something which may have indicated that COVID came through my body. I got some sores on my toe that people are now saying could be COVID toes. You may have seen the articles about that. It's the only symptom I had. No one else in the family had any other symptoms. I got tested and I was negative. We don't know what that means. Maybe it means that the virus went through me and the only immunological marker of it having been in my body were these COVID toes. I'm healthy, I'm fine, I'm feeling full of vigor. But there are now articles that are coming out saying that one of the things that may be happening in these COVID toes is a disruption of the circulation to those extremities. And some people who've had COVID toes are not having their feet recover as mine blessedly are, but are having their toes that were impacted amputated or potentially amputated because there was so much vascular disruption to those extremities. How often do we think about our toes? Well, I'm thinking about my toes all the time right now. And as a biker and as a runner and as a walker, imagining what it would have been like had I had to confront the loss of even a single toe because of this disease. I would have survived. I would have found a way to get past it, but it would have been a pretty serious change to my sense of my life and my body. I bring that back to Rabbi Eliezer and Parshat Emor and the Rambam and Soloveitchik. In the Torah and the rabbinic way of understanding this rule, there are two things that are going on. Number one, when you injure another person, it's not just that you have to offer recompense for what you have done to them. You have to find a way, or you're being forced to find a way, to experience and internalize that loss yourself. That's how we treat another. What would your life be like without a toe? What would your life be like without an eye? What would your life be like without a limb? You take that into account and you extrapolate from limb to feeling and from limb to financial situation. What would your life be like if you had to suffer the loss that you afflicted on someone else? That's what ayin tachat ayin means. You aim for another person's eye. It is your eye that is somewhat at stake because a similar impact on your life is going to be asked of you in response. This is a very serious way that the Torah understands the value of life. It's not just that we value every life equally. We value every part of the body of every life equally. And no one's eye and no one's toe and no one's hand is worth any more or any less than anyone else's, whatever their religious identity, whatever their sexual identity, whatever their racial identity, whatever their national identity is. And the Torah and the rabbinic commentary on that thrust that into our consciousness thousands of years before modern society began to wise up to this notion, and we still in modern society have a long way to go as we so easily other people and discount what other people's lives and other people's bodies and other people's bodies' parts mean to them. The Torah asks us to consider that what it means to them is exactly what it would mean to us. And what it would be like for them to lose is exactly what it would be like for us to lose. Ayin tachat ayin. Your eye for another person's eye. Their life and body mean as much to them as yours do to you. A worthy thing for us to be considering as we are putting ourselves in a position of trying to be present for others and imagine what they're going through during extremely difficult times. So for that, I say Shabbat Shalom. And if you want to linger for a little bit, we'll do a short meditation. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Find a comfortable position. wherever you're seated with your bottom experiencing the support and the comfort of the chair or the couch that you're sitting on, your feet flat on the ground in front of you, in contact with the rug or the floorboards, the earth itself that's holding you. Notice a change in your body that comes upon you simply by closing yourself off to needless stimuli, pushing the sounds around you to the periphery as you come in close, listening either to the sound of my voice or pushing even that sound to the edges as you focus on your breathing. And I want you to conjure in your mind right now one person whom you injured this week. You probably didn't poke out an eye or cut off a limb or amputate a toe. But unless you live in utter isolation, I imagine that you, like me, hopefully mostly unintentionally, but sometimes with a little bit of willfulness present, you caused an injury with a word you said, a look you gave, a deed you undertook. And in the moment, perhaps you defended your actions to yourself. You knew exactly why it was something that had to be done. It was justified. And maybe you offered a partial apology. In the spirit of the Talmud and the Torah and Maimonides and Rabbi Soloveitchik, I want you to try to feel in your own body the injury you caused in theirs. Where did it hurt them and why? And as you allow yourself to be infected by the wound within you that you inflicted upon the other, it might become clear to you what is incumbent upon you to do to make good, to make up, to restore. Ayin tachat ayin. When we injure another, we must, if we are caring people, pay for it with our very selves, allowing somehow that wound to boomerang back to us so we understand the pain we inflicted, not symbolically, not just financially, but somehow essentially. As you feel yourself wounded by the wound you inflicted on another, watch yourself healing that other in all the ways that you know how to do by giving of yourself, including when it hurts, and showing that you think as much about them and you value them nearly as much as you value you. Ayin tachat ayin, shein tachat shein, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. A life is a life. A wound is a wound. And we must harness our power to heal more forcefully than we permit ourselves the power to wound. With a few more deep breaths, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I say to you, Shabbat Shalom. And I love you, and I miss you.